A federal judge in Texas has blocked the Biden administration from selling border wall materials. There's this big story that Biden administration is just letting the border wall materials go at pennies on the dollar. Is that going on? Is that happening in the last month before Daddy Trump takes over? Let's get into it. Here we go.
Your crucial win for America. That's what President-elect Trump is calling a ruling that blocks the Biden administration from selling border wall materials. In a Truth Social post, the president-elect said the judge also ordered an investigation into how those materials were even put up for sale. News Nation's Xavier Walton has more from Dallas this morning. And Xavier, I think that's the question, right? I think a lot of people are wondering how these border materials can even be sold in the first place. What'd you find?
Hey, Mark, well, I guess you could say, anything can be bought and sold online, or at least you thought it could until this. I mean, you got to remember this too. Texas, the state of Texas has said it is going to help the Trump administration coming in any way, shape, or form possible when it comes to these mass deportation efforts starting day one. This is one of those ways, right? But let's get to a statement from a Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton. He is calling this a success, saying in part, we have successfully blocked the Biden administration from disposing of any further border wall materials before President Trump takes office. On January 20th, the Biden administration agreeing to an order from the courts preventing his administration from selling any further border wall materials over the next 30 days. For context, you know what?
Is Biden even alive? Do we know if Biden is alive? I mean, do we care? Yeah, right?
This back and forth really has over border wall materials has been going on for years. In 2023, Congress ordered the Department of Defense to sell remaining border.
Ritchie Brothers.
Some materials went to border states like, say, Arizona, federal agencies as well. Texas officials say, others were sold to a private auction company, 𝗪𝗡𝗠𝗜𝗏.com. You're seeing this video here. But for pennies on the dollar, that's something President-elect Donald Trump obviously talked about. Fast forward to this December, just a couple of weeks ago, Paxton filed a motion to stop the Biden administration from selling any more border wall material. Following the court's decision, the Biden administration agreed to stop for the next 30 days. So Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, he has been all over this, posting on X, saying in part, this is a huge win for Donald Trump and Texas. The border wall that Joe Biden was attempting to auction off for pennies on the dollar in secret has been stopped. Meantime, President-elect Trump reportedly expected to issue an executive order freeing up funds to restart building the border wall again, potentially on day one when he is back in office, January 20th, Marky.
Build the wall. If you're enjoying this content, head on over to reasonabletv.com. One of more recent member content pieces, illegal migrant torches New York City commuter. Some networks don't like to see a burning body on fire burning. So we got to put it elsewhere. Things, have extreme violence, that kind of thing. That goes on reasonabletv.com. What's that going to cost you? It's $3.99 a month. Less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. $3.99, and you can watch it for free for 14 days, 14-day free trial. Do your thing. Thanks in advance. Back to your regular scheduled program. Now, I did a little bit of research on this topic, and this is one of those ones where I'm probably going to push back just a little bit. Now, this notion that they're selling off border wall materials for pennies on the dollar, well, it looks like some of that is scrap metal. And those go for pennies on the dollar, new. All right. These are structurally significant. These are, we can use these. These ones we can't. This is scrap. That stuff gets sold off for scrap metal, right? And much of what has been indicated as border wall materials that have been sold was already in the hands of private parties. It had already been sold. So it was being resold, as this stuff does. So whether or not this was a big win, I don't really know, but it was a win that Republicans can point to, and Democrats it's one more time that they just take a walloping, right? Okay. I mean, they've taken so many hits that I think they're just looking to get Biden out of office, vertical. Even if they have to push him up. It's like Whitney Cummings. She was talking about literally propping Biden up. And she made some other funny jokes, like the viewership of CNN. That's who's paying her to come on. It was the New Year's Eve show with whomever those two other guys are, right? I mean, So bad, yet so funny. So you've got this thing, Biden administration, all right, we agree. Yeah, we agree. They probably weren't doing this anyway. I mean, the major stuff they weren't selling off. It was stuff that's already been in the hands of private parties. Trump buys funds to restart the border wall. Okay, yeah, that I believe will happen day one. Trump has said, hey, we're going to crank this back up again. Now, the Biden administration wasn't supposed to stop building the wall, but, it's not a real big priority. Security at the southern border has not been a priority. I think I can say that pretty emphatically, right? National security has not been an issue for the Biden administration. Just hasn't. Just hasn't been a thing. They say one thing, and then Kamala Harris towards the end where, she's got like a month left to go in the presidency. I believe in a secure America. Yeah, and the facts are, how many million people as vice president did you let in? How many million people? Oh, yeah. Well, we know that you are politicking us with that statement. That's just not the way that it goes. So you got a judge who said, okay, let's stop this nonsense and let's go ahead and see, what the real stuff is that's being auctioned off. I don't think it's anything crazy, but I think there was enough information out there where a judge was able to say, okay, yeah, you got to follow the law, at least for the next 30 days, guys. Come on. You can do that, right? Until Biden literally, gets hauled off the stage and Trump comes in and just starts to go with all of his folks. So here at the Center Square, another Republican or a conservative outlet. So the Center Square has the article, Federal Court Order Won't Impact Border Wall Materials in Question. So as Texas's Attorney General says, we've successfully blocked the Biden administration from disposing of any further border wall materials before President Trump takes office, Paxton claimed, claiming the auctioning of materials was clearly motivated by a desire to thwart President-elect Trump's immigration agenda. So much stuff we know clearly that Biden, he had no respect for the southern border. He has no respect for any of the border states. Just zero respect. Doesn't care. Just let them in. Bring them in by the millions. It's all going to be great. Greatest thing ever, right? Until it's not. Till people start getting raped and murdered, and then, this isn't good. We need to tighten up the border. So the materials in question had already been sold by the federal government to a private auction site under the National Defense Authorization Act. Department of Defense confirmed that the border wall materials were redistributed according to the NDAA, which Congress passed with Republican support. The law required the Secretary of Defense to submit detailed information to Congress about how it was using, donating, or selling excess border wall materials purchased through fiscal years 2017 through 2022. Because the materials no longer belong to the federal government, it has no legal authority to recall the material or stop further resale of material it no longer owns. It's not theirs. Okay. All right. The materials weren't state-of-the-art, high-quality steel, but scrap metal and not structurally sound, said Texas-based officials and former federal employees who've worked on border wall construction for years, told the Center Square. They spoke on condition of being anonymous for fear of reprisal. Because this story's not going the right direction. We just wanted it so badly to be true. And yet there is virtually no media coverage on this topic. This happened. A judge said, yep, no more. So if there were any shenanigans going on, those have been shut down. Well, legally anyway, they can still happen. You got to go in front of the judge. Did you keep selling the border wall material? Yes, I did. But I told you not to. Don't care. Well, I'm going to sanction you. One of those deals. Texas has not purchased the materials and doesn't have plans to purchase them, the officials said. This is stuff, it's junk stuff, right? This is junk stuff, or mostly junk stuff. The ones being listed are scrap. We don't want them. They are faulty panels, incomplete. The ones we want, the good ones, aren't listed for auction. Before any federal materials are listed by a private auction, they are first listed on federal auction websites, one Texas official told the Center Square. Every company that uses steel tracks these sales. The panels being sold at auction, no one wants them. No one wants scrap metal. We can't use them to build the wall. So that's where this whole, notion of, well, pennies on the dollar. Yes. And that is true. But I don't think it's the Biden administration, trying to do this thing behind everybody's back. I don't think it's that. But what this really points to is, hey, you know what? The damage has already been done. It's already been done. So day one, Donald Trump, number 47, 45 and 47. And the guy in between was just a placeholder, right? He'll go ahead and start building the wall again, which should have never been stopped. But that's what you get when you've got somebody like, Joe Biden, who literally from day one wasn't in command of his mental faculties, was he? No, this is probably the biggest story, untold story from 2024. Was how much the Biden administration covered for Biden because of his cognitive decline. The guy's a senior citizen and losing his mind. That is senior abuse, textbook, senior abuse. Let's put him out for another 4 years and we'll just see how he does. Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, he is of sound mind. He is really sharp. And then until they got to yank him, literally a couple of months before the election, this isn't going to go well. Let's get somebody else in there. Who else do we got? Oh, not Kamala. Anybody? Kamala, you're in. It's like when you don't have any other pitchers and, you're down a bunch and you got to put somebody in and you're like, oh man, are we going to put him? Yep, we are. And then there's just, this rush of enthusiasm until there's not. And $1.5 billion is spent on a losing campaign inside of 4 months. I mean, just the whole thing it's a huge comedy of errors, right? I understand the narrative that people are pushing against the Biden administration to make it seem like they are trying to prevent the Trump administration from putting up border wall, but it's a faulty narrative. All right. Okay. Those materials won't do us any good. We can't use them. We're not in the scrap metal business. Makes a good story, but it's not accurate, the source said. Sources also explained that if materials in question were structurally sound, Texas would have already purchased them to build its own border wall. Yeah, but you got the attorney general and you got the governor pretty worked up over this. So there had to have been something going on there, right? I'm not going to say that every single one of these was scrap metal. There's some stuff going on there. There's some stuff going on there, right? I mean, it's just true. Usable and structurally sound border wall panels are still lying on the ground in the Rio Grande Valley, for example. One source involved in border wall construction told the Center Square, the materials we want are still sitting on the ground. The ones being shown online don't pass a stress test. All right. There it is. They're completed panels in the Rio Grande Valley that fill 2 city blocks laying on the ground. They reach 15 feet high, stacked flat. These are not for sale. We would take those, the official said. All right, so it's pretty clear what they want and they don't want. Most of the stuff being sold, they don't want, they're not taking. But there had to have been enough of the legit materials being sold for a judge to warrant, hey, no mas. No mas. All of this just points to, let's get Sleepy Joe out of office. Sleepy Joe's got to go, right? I mean, he's just got to go. He screwed up so many things. I mean, he's just the most ineffective president we've probably ever had. Well, maybe. Yeah. And it's certainly the campaign that Kamala Harris ran, who was the border czar, by the way. Oh, she wasn't the border czar. Oh, what was she? We don't really know. Her as well. Get her out of there. Whatever it takes, get them out of there. Let's start building that wall again. Let's start getting some security going. And let's not do any more of this. Just let people into the interior of the United States. Let's do a little background check first, a little bit of vetting, that whole thing and that policy of parole. Maybe we, just reel that back in a little bit, that catch and release, and start to get back on the right path, because it's been 4 years of not the right path. That's why I think a story like this hits so many nerves, which is, what are you doing, Joe? What are you doing? Yeah, he's probably not doing a lot of anything on any topic right now, right? He's just like, oh, where do I go? Oh, what am I doing here? Poor guy. Elder abuse. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.